For millions of years, humanity has looked toward one direction: the sky. We built towers that touched the clouds. We created machines that could fly faster than sound. We launched rockets beyond Earth and searched the universe for other worlds. But what if this was never our destiny? What if humans were never meant to walk on land? What if our ancestors never left the ocean? Imagine a different Earth. A planet where there are no giant cities covering the continents, no highways connecting countries, no airplanes crossing the atmosphere. Instead, thousands of meters beneath the surface, hidden in the darkness of the ocean, another civilization has existed for millions of years. A civilization created by creatures who share our ancient ancestors but followed a completely different evolutionary path. They do not build with steel. They do not burn fuel. They do not destroy forests to expand their cities. Their homes grow like living organisms. Their technology comes from biology. Their energy comes from the movement of the ocean. They never discovered fire. They never created industrial machines. And yet they built a world that has survived longer than ours. So the question is, if humans had never left the ocean, would we have become less advanced? Or would we have created a better civilization than our own? Around 7 million years ago, the ancestors of humans were very different from us. They were small primates living in the forests of Africa. They had no cities, no language, no technology. They were simply animals trying to survive. In our reality, everything changed when the environment around them transformed. The forests began shrinking, grasslands expanded, food became harder to find, and some of these early ancestors were forced to adapt. They moved onto the ground. They learned to walk on two legs. They used their hands to create tools. Their brains became larger. And slowly, over millions of years, they became human. But what if that moment never happened? What if those ancient forests remained? What if the coastline became the safest and richest place to survive? In this alternate timeline, our ancestors did not move away from the ocean. They moved closer to it. At first, they entered shallow waters only to collect food. They searched for shellfish. They caught small fish. They escaped predators by hiding beneath the waves. The ocean was not a place to visit. It was a place that protected them. And over countless generations, the ocean began changing them. Evolution does not create perfection. It creates adaptation. Every generation carries small changes. The creatures that survive are the ones best suited for their environment. For these ocean-dwelling ancestors, survival meant becoming better swimmers. Their bodies became more efficient in water. Their muscles adapted. Their lungs became stronger. Their vision improved in darker environments. Their bodies became smoother, reducing resistance while moving through the sea. Their hands remained capable of manipulating objects, but also became better suited for underwater movement. Slowly, they became something new, not fish, not mammals living near the ocean, but a new intelligent species called ocean humans, a branch of evolution that never touched the land. But there was one major difference between these humans and us: they never discovered fire, and that changed everything. Fire was humanity's greatest invention. Before fire, humans were vulnerable. After fire, everything changed. Fire allowed our ancestors to cook food. Cooked food provided more energy. More energy supported larger brains. Fire allowed humans to survive cold environments. It allowed them to create pottery. Later, it helped them melt metal. Metal created tools. Tools created machines. Machines created industry. And the modern world was built on fire. But underwater, fire was impossible. A flame could not survive in the ocean. A furnace could not burn. Metalworking could never develop in the same way. So without fire, would ocean humans remain trapped in the Stone Age forever? The answer is no, because they would stop trying to become land humans and create something completely different. Instead of controlling flames, they learned to control life itself. While land humans looked at rocks and metals as materials, ocean humans looked at living organisms. And their greatest discoveries were not machines but ecosystems. Their first cities were not constructed. They were grown, using carefully guided coral growth. They created enormous underwater structures. At first, these were simple shelters, but after thousands of years of experimentation, they became massive living cities with walls that could repair themselves, structures that could grow stronger over time, and buildings that changed shape depending on ocean conditions. A land human city was built against nature. An ocean human city was built with nature, and their civilization was not separate from the environment. It was part of the environment, but they still needed energy. Without fire, without coal, without oil, they had to find another solution, and the ocean itself became their source of power. They learned to use the movement of tides, the energy of ocean currents, the temperature differences between deep and shallow water, and bioluminescent organisms became their natural lighting systems. The ocean was not their limitation, it was their power source. If a human from our world visited their civilization, they might think they were looking at a primitive society. There would be no cars, no skyscrapers, no factories, no computers made of metal. But this would be a misunderstanding because their technology simply followed a different path. Human civilization on land developed by changing the world around us. We built machines that replaced nature, while ocean humans developed technology by cooperating with nature. Their computers were biological, their buildings were alive, their transportation was connected to ecosystems, and they did not create machines that moved through the ocean. Instead, they created relationships with the ocean itself. For example, instead of creating ships, they could engineer living creatures capable of carrying them across vast distances. Instead of artificial lights powered by electricity, they could cultivate organisms that naturally produced light. Instead of destroying ecosystems to obtain resources, they could design systems where every part supported another. Their civilization was slower, but it was incredibly stable, and this created the biggest difference between the two possible human futures. Land humans became masters of survival. Ocean humans became masters of balance. Land humans asked, how can we control nature? Ocean humans asked, how can we exist with nature? Neither path was completely right. Neither path was completely wrong. They were simply two different answers to the same question. What does it mean to be human? For millions of years, the ocean humans continued to evolve, while land humans built civilizations that rose and collapsed. The ocean civilizations slowly expanded across the planet. Their progress was not measured by how much land they controlled. It was measured by how well they understood their world. They mapped every ocean current. They studied every species. They learned the hidden connections between all living things. To them, the ocean was not just a place to live. It was a giant living system, and they believed that understanding the ocean meant understanding life itself. Eventually, their civilization spread across every major ocean, from shallow coastal regions to the deepest parts of the sea. They created enormous underwater cities connected by biological pathways. Some cities floated near the surface, collecting sunlight. Others existed thousands of meters below, where sunlight had never reached, and each city adapted to its environment. The shallow cities were full of colorful plants and growing structures. The deep cities were surrounded by glowing organisms that created a world of permanent twilight. To an observer from our world, these places would look impossible, a civilization without concrete, without steel, without electricity as we know it. Yet everywhere there was evidence of intelligence, planning, creativity, and imagination. But there was one thing they never achieved, something that defined human civilization on land: they never escaped their planet. For land humans, the sky became a symbol of possibility. From the moment ancient humans looked upward, they wondered what existed beyond the clouds. The stars inspired myths, the moon inspired calendars, and eventually, curiosity became science. Humans built telescopes, then airplanes, then rockets, and finally, they left Earth. But for ocean humans, the sky was different. The surface of the ocean was not a doorway, it was a barrier. The world above the waves was a strange and dangerous place. The air was empty, the sunlight was overwhelming, the temperatures changed dramatically, and their bodies were designed for the ocean, not the atmosphere. To them, the surface was like outer space, a mysterious world that belonged to another species. They looked upward and wondered, what exists above our ocean? They studied the movement of light entering the water. They observed the moon's effect on tides. They created theories about the world beyond the waves, but they could never experience it the way land humans did, and the stars remained distant dreams. And this created the greatest difference between the two civilizations. Land humans became explorers of space. Ocean humans became explorers of life. One civilization looked outward, the other looked inward. If ocean humans existed today, their world would be completely different from ours. There would be no cities filled with millions of people standing on land. Instead, entire populations would live beneath the waves. There would be no highways, no airports, no factories producing endless machines, and instead, there would be networks of living structures connecting the oceans. Their homes would clean the water around them, their energy systems would work with natural currents, and their technology would grow, adapt, and repair itself. But there would also be limitations. Without fire, they would never experience the same industrial revolution. They would struggle to create advanced metals. They would never build massive machines powered by combustion. Their civilization would move slowly, very slowly. A discovery that took humans on land only decades might take them centuries. Their world would not change overnight, but perhaps that was exactly why it survived. Human history on land is filled with moments of incredible progress, but it is also filled with destruction. Forests disappeared, species went extinct, Rivers became polluted. The atmosphere changed. Our intelligence gave us incredible power, but that power came with consequences. Ocean humans faced a different challenge. Because they depended completely on their environment, destroying the ocean meant destroying themselves. They could not separate civilization from nature. They had no choice but to maintain balance, and their survival depended on cooperation. Imagine waking up in their civilization. You open your eyes inside a living home grown from coral and biological materials. Soft natural light fills the room, and the walls slowly adjust to the temperature around you. Outside your window, instead of streets and buildings, you see an endless blue world. Huge creatures move peacefully through the city. Plants release oxygen. Small organisms create patterns of light like underwater stars, and the city itself feels alive. A young ocean human begins their education, but their classroom is not a building. The entire ocean is their classroom. They learn about currents by traveling through them. They learn biology by communicating with other species. They learn history through the sounds preserved by previous generations. And their knowledge is not stored in books. It exists throughout their civilization. When they become scientists, they do not build machines to control nature. They study how nature works. They create new organisms. They restore damaged ecosystems. They repair parts of the ocean that have changed over time. Their greatest achievement is not building something bigger. It is maintaining something beautiful. But after millions of years of evolution, one question remains: would ocean humans consider themselves more advanced than us? Or would they look at our civilization and wonder how we achieved so much? Because from their perspective, we would be the strange ones. Imagine that one day, deep beneath the ocean, they discovered evidence of another intelligent species. A species that lived above the waves. A species that built enormous cities. A species that reached beyond the planet. They would discover our abandoned machines, our satellites, our spacecraft, our history, and they would face the same question we are asking now: what happened to them? They would see our achievements, the pyramids, the internet, the spacecraft exploring Mars, the technology that connected billions of minds. They would understand that humans from land were extraordinary, but they would also see something else: the damage we caused, the polluted oceans, the changing climate, the disappearance of countless species. To ocean humans, our civilization might look like a brilliant flame, a powerful light that burned brighter and brighter but eventually consumed everything around it. But perhaps they would not judge us, because they would understand one thing: every civilization has weaknesses. Every path of evolution creates advantages and disadvantages. Their world was not perfect. Our world was not perfect. We simply became different answers to the same evolutionary question. For millions of years, two possible human futures could have existed. One civilization reached for the stars. The other civilization protected the oceans. One created machines powerful enough to change an entire planet. The other created a world that could survive without destroying itself. So if these two civilizations met, who would be considered more advanced? At first, the answer might seem obvious. Land humans would appear superior. We built rockets. We created artificial intelligence. We split the atom. We sent machines across the solar system. From the perspective of technology, our civilization achieved things the ocean humans could only dream about. But technology is not the only measure of progress, because every invention creates a new responsibility. And sometimes, the same intelligence that allows a species to create wonders also allows it to create disasters. Imagine an ocean human scientist observing our world. They would see our incredible achievements. They would see cities glowing at night. They would see satellites surrounding the planet. They would see humans standing on another world. They would understand that we are a species with unlimited curiosity, a species that refuses to accept boundaries. But they would also ask one question: why did you create a civilization that damaged the very planet that allowed you to exist? To them, this would be difficult to understand, because their entire civilization was built around one idea: a species cannot defeat its environment, it can only become part of it. Now imagine the impossible. After millions of years separated by evolution, the two human civilizations finally meet. The ocean humans rise from the depths, the land humans descend beneath the waves, and for the first time in history, humanity meets itself. At first, both sides are shocked. The ocean humans see creatures that look familiar, yet completely different: beings who walk on land, beings who breathe air, beings who have transformed the surface world. The land humans see intelligent life that came from the same ancient ancestors, a civilization that developed without fire, without factories, without machines, yet survived for millions of years. The two civilizations begin sharing knowledge. Land humans teach them about space, about planets, about galaxies, about the universe beyond Earth. Ocean humans teach land humans about life, about ecosystems, about balance, about a relationship with nature that was almost forgotten. Slowly, both civilizations realized something: neither one created the perfect future. They simply solved different problems. Land humans solved the problem of survival through control. We controlled fire. We controlled energy. We controlled materials. We controlled our environment. Ocean humans solved survival through adaptation. They adapted to the ocean. They adapted to life. They adapted to change. And perhaps the greatest advancement would not be choosing one path over the other. It would be combining both. With the knowledge of both civilizations combined, something new could emerge. A humanity that no longer sees technology and nature as opposites. A civilization capable of exploring space while still protecting its own planet. Land humans provide artificial intelligence, engineering, astronomy, space exploration. Ocean humans provide biological technology, environmental restoration, sustainable systems. Together, they create a civilization unlike anything that existed before. The cities of the future would no longer belong only to land or ocean. They would exist everywhere: floating cities above the waves, living cities beneath the surface, space stations beyond Earth. Humanity would no longer be limited to one environment. It would become a species capable of adapting anywhere. And perhaps this is the true lesson of evolution. Evolution does not create the strongest creature. It creates the creature that can survive. The shark survived for hundreds of millions of years. The octopus developed incredible intelligence. The birds inherited the skies from dinosaurs. And humans, whether on land or beneath the ocean, would always be defined by one thing: our ability to imagine a different future. The blue planet shines in the darkness of space. On the surface, human cities glow. Beneath the waves, another civilization shines. Two worlds, two histories, two versions of humanity. The story of humans was never about conquering the Earth. It was about adapting to it. Maybe the biggest mistake we made was believing that evolution had only one destination. Maybe there was never just one path to becoming human. If our ancestors had never left the ocean, we might never have built rockets. We might never have walked on the moon. We might never have searched the universe for answers. But we might have discovered something else: how to live in harmony with the world that created us. Because in the end, the most advanced civilization is not the one that can travel the farthest. It is the one that understands where it came from.